This segment is going to cover the installation of the motors onto the main carbon fiber plate. Now the stock kit comes with Taiga branded 2204 2300 kV motors. What's kind of odd is that they use a M2 size screw to attach the motors to the main carbon fiber plate. So if you're looking to upgrade or to use a standard size common motor, you're going to have to take the carbon fiber plate and drill out the holes ever so slightly. I recommend you use a drill press to do this as accurately as possible. So these were drilled out to an M3 size, so I could use a common size screw. Now the kit comes with 4 of these carbon fiber discs. These are the motor supports and fit at the bottom of the plate here. So to start the installation, I did have to, on a side note, I did have to extend the wires here on the motors that I chose to use. You may or may not have to do this. So you feed the motors through the opening here on the top of the main carbon fiber plate. Then the motor support discs fit on the bottom. And I found out that a M3 14mm length screw here worked perfectly for me with the motors I chose to use. And here you have it, one of the motors installed. You would do the other 3 the same way, or you would mount the stock motors the same way, again using the carbon fiber disc here at the bottom and the screws. Alright, in this segment of the video we're going to cover the building of the PCB and the electronic components. First you have the 2 carbon fiber PCB trays here, and they install onto the front aluminum bridge and the rear aluminum bridge. The rear aluminum bridge has the pointy ends to support the canopy and the hole openings, and you just use 2 of the M2 4mm screws, 2 at the back here, 2 at the front, and again you would use Loctite for the metal to metal. I've chosen to use a Matec Hub OSD Eco. This is a PDB OSD combination, and KISS 24 amp ESCs. So I'll quickly kind of cover all the connections here. This wire's for the HS1170 style camera. That feeds the image to the PDB. This wire here feeds the OSD image to the VTX. This is for the camera. And on the back here, you have the power for the VTX. This wire here is to power my KISS FC, and this has been soldered to the VCC connection on the PDB, and that feeds direct power to the KISS FC, which is important, especially if you want to get accurate battery levels. And at all 4 corners here is a KISS EFC attached to the positive and negative, and each KISS ESC has, I like to use these servo extensions, just makes it really easy, and I just cut them to size and attach it to the KISS EFC. At the very back, an XT60 connector, of course, to power everything. Now the stock kit comes with a Naze Rev 6 and these little red dampeners. These little dampeners, once you install them onto the flight controller, will line up and mount onto the carbon fiber PCB at the 4 points there. I've chosen to use a KISS FC, and this one's been prepared here for the build. I install my buzzer here at the front with some hot glue, make the connections. My power connector to power the KISS FCs here at the bottom. I like installing pins onto my KISS FCs rather than a direct solder. It just makes maintenance down the road much easier. And here's the wiring harness for the FR Sky XSR receiver. And you'll be using 4 standoffs there to install the flight controller. Now I've already installed the standoffs here on the PDB. Now it's important that you get standoffs that are short enough but still long enough so you're not making contact with a carbon fiber PCB. So I'll go ahead and install this here. Just installs onto the standoffs. And here's what I was talking about. You have to choose a standoff that's just short enough so all these components fit into the main carbon fiber plate, but long enough for none of the components of your PDB are touching the carbon fiber PCB tray here. After that's installed, you'll install the 4 standoffs here on top of the PDB, and this holds the PDB to the carbon fiber plate. So the next connection here is the power for my KISS FC. Now the KISS FC is a polarity protected, but here on the top you could see a positive and a negative here. So just make sure to line that up and connect, make that connection correctly. And then we'll snake through the connections for the ESCs to the KISS FC. Line them up correctly according to motor 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And slide that over the standoffs. And then to finish it off, you'd be installing your nuts here to hold your flight controller of choice. Again, here's the completed electronic stack. Again, you have the PDB here on the bottom, the PCB and the tray, the aluminum bridges, and the flight controller mounted here on top. In this segment, we're going to be covering the installation of the electronic components in the PCB bridge, the battery plate, the HS1177 style camera onto the main carbon fiber plate, and this will require 8 of the M2 4mm screws. So the easiest way to do this is to take the PCB and the electronic components, drop in the front aluminum bridge down first, slide that forward, drop down the back aluminum bridge and slide that backwards, and the 4 screw openings should line up, and the aluminum bridges should fit underneath the carbon fiber tab of the main plate. And here, typically metal to metal, I'd be using Loctite. Again, the easiest way to do the back is to install the screw on your tool. You drop it down through the hole opening here. So to recap, the aluminum bridge fits underneath the carbon fiber tab at all 4 corners. Then you use 4 screws, 2 here up front and 2 in the back. Now in stock form, this carbon fiber battery plate mounts like so, with the long portion facing the forward. I've elected to flip it 180 degrees and mount my radio receiver here and my VTX on top. So there's 2 screws here on the back. And this camera mount was designed by one of my teammates. He goes by the name of Godfather, and it lets you use an HS 1170 style camera mount. Here I'm using a Runcam Al Plus with the Iron 300. So we'll fish through the connection there. And this lines up with the stock screw holes here. You could use the stock screws or some screws that are slightly longer. There should be plenty in the kit. Alright, so there you have it. Here's the camera installed, the battery plate, again the VTX mounted to the back, the radio receiver mounted to the bottom here. XT60 will come around the side here to make the connection for the battery.